we're approaching the final stretch of the pregnancy, and so excited to give you some exciting updates in the last month and a half. I'm at almost 35 weeks today and feeling very large and pregnant right now. We've done a lot of exciting things since we got vaccinated, so it's definitely feeling a lot more exciting and a lot more real. I know I mentioned that we were going to go on a Babymoon in the last update, and we did end up going to Hilton Head, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia, and it was perfect. If you have like a pretty uncomplicated pregnancy, doctors do kind of give you the green light to fly pretty much until you're 36 weeks along. However, I was kind of nervous about that. It seemed like maybe I wouldn't be as comfortable. So we decided to plan our trip around 28 weeks, which was just before the third trimester started. And I think it worked out really well. First of all, the temperature was perfect down south at that time. It was late April, early May. So it was in the 70s and it was just sunny most of the time. There was some rain when we flew in, but the rest of the week was really gorgeous. And the other good thing was that although my bump was growing, I didn't feel uncomfortable yet at that time. So we walked around a lot. We basically rented a car halfway through to get from Hilton Head to Savannah. But while we were kind of like in those cities, we did mostly walking to and from restaurants and from our Airbnb and hotel. And it was really nice to be able to have that option and not feel like so physically burdened. I think had we waited until further along like I am now, walking long distances would definitely be a lot more of a struggle. Like, for instance, yesterday, Alex and I walked from Grand Central all the way home, and we had to take a break because A, it was almost 90 degrees, and B, I was so tired and overheated that I just like needed to sit down and have some water. And we bought a loaf of bread, so ate some of that too before we, you know, made it all the way home. So yeah, another awesome thing about Hilton Head and Savannah was that the food was really amazing. And I think because of the fact, multiple factors, it was a pretty nice break from the like dense New York city scene. So while we were outside, we didn't have to wear masks, which was, a bit of a relief compared to when you're walking around in New York City and it's like really warm and you have to like keep a mask on because social distancing wasn't really like a possibility when there's so many pedestrians everywhere. So that was really nice. And there's amazing food everywhere. So let me know if you want any recommendations. Feel free to ask for those. So yeah, Babymoon generally was a success. Before we left for the Babymoon, I did have to take my initial glucose test. Hey, Alex, you want to try some of my glucose test drink?
Sure. Oh, that kind of D, right?
It's going to be delicious.
Oh, it's flavored. It's lemon.
What?
That's really good.
What?
It's
You're
delicious.
lying.
No, it's good.
Huh.
It's like tonic water.
Give that to me.
It's like a flat lemonade.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's lying. Oh, he's not lying. Ooh, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, you can add some ice.
Okay, I'm not mad at this. I wasn't thinking too hard about it. I didn't think that I would have any issue passing it. And of course, they tell you that you can eat a normal meal beforehand. And I made the mistake of having a banana beforehand. And I think that kind of tipped me over the edge. And so I ended up getting a 137. And if you're over 130 at my doctor's office, they actually ask you to come in to take the more rigorous glucose test, which sucks. So I, in hindsight, wish I hadn't had that banana, because had I passed the first time, I wouldn't have had to go through that whole thing. But basically, once I got back from the Babymoon, I had to do a 3-hour glucose test, which basically is an initial blood draw to kind of get your baseline glucose level. And then you drink a 5-ounce bottle of sugar water, which is really unappetizing. And you want to do this first thing in the morning because you have to fast beforehand. So I went in around 8 a.m. and got my initial blood draw, drank the juice, and then waited an hour before my first blood draw, or my second blood draw. Waited another hour for my third blood draw, and then waited one more hour for my last blood draw. So basically what they want to see is that your glucose levels go down and aren't surpassing certain thresholds. So thankfully, I did end up passing that glucose test, but after 4 blood draws and 3 hours of my life and the stress and just, thinking about this whole thing, I was really kind of, annoyed that I had to go through that whole thing just because I had that banana. And had I not had that stinking banana, maybe I wouldn't have had to do all of that. So just, a lesson or, a tip for anyone who might be doing that soon. Don't eat anything before your initial glucose test, because it's better to pass the first one like quickly and not have to go through the more rigorous one. Some people asked what gestational diabetes is. I've always heard about it because my sister-in-law had it. However, I didn't really know exactly what it was until I did some research recently. But basically, your baby does not process sugar the way our mature bodies do. So unfortunately, if you end up having gestational diabetes, your baby can become really large and essentially become a fat baby. Not only is this obviously an issue for the actual delivery, but it can cause complications like an early delivery and then also breathing problems. And long term, your baby can actually end up developing diabetes. So it's one of those things where it's super preventable. You obviously take this test like halfway, a little over halfway through your pregnancy. So if you catch it and you go to your appointments, then it's totally fine, because then you adjust your diet and your, lifestyle to maintain your sugar levels as the mom, and that basically solves the issue for you. And then once you give birth, the diabetes goes away. So it's literally just for your pregnancy. It's not something that develops and then sticks around forever. You're free and clear once you've had your baby. Another thing that I had mentioned probably in one of my other updates is that I was getting another vaccine for the pregnancy specifically. It's called TDAP, and I already have that vaccine. However, starting in the second and third trimesters, the mother actually is able to pass on immunities to their baby. So they actually suggest you getting TDAP around 24 to 36 weeks. Once that's in your system, it actually gets passed on to your babies. So when they're born, for the first few months, they're like immune to whooping cough, which is one of the biggest concerns, and can cause death. So it's really exciting that you're able to like get the shot and pass on that immunity to your baby. So I definitely did that, and you can ask me any questions you want about that, but I think it's like pretty standard procedure these days to get TDAP in your second or third trimester. As we're coming to the end of the pregnancy, we get a lot of questions about baby registries and the baby shower. And as I mentioned earlier on, it was definitely something that we were kind of on the fence about because we weren't sure how COVID would progress in New York. and how comfortable people would be given the vaccination rate and all of that. But New York has definitely significantly improved in the last 3 months. And in the end, we decided that we were comfortable hosting something outdoors. And actually, basically, since April, when New York State opened up vaccine eligibility to everyone basically over 16, all of our friends and our family have basically gotten vaccinated. So that was super exciting. And so we did decide to host our baby shower in the Hudson River Park. And it was a lot of fun. We basically had a cute little picnic and just were able to see our friends and family before babies here. So we did have to put together a baby registry. I ended up on Amazon and Babylist. I thought that the two websites were pretty comprehensive, and I got a lot of tips and feedback from both of the websites. They have like checklists and suggestions, and both websites kind of have their own free gifts and different things that they offer you. So I decided to go with both because I like both platforms for different reasons. So I think I mentioned this earlier, and I think it worked out really well. While we were going through the process, it was definitely a struggle as a New York City resident. We felt that a lot of the things that were kind of being pushed along to like first time parents were completely unnecessary. So it was a little bit of a, struggle between like, is this necessary, or are we being like weird about something, like, or is it actually like something that will be useful, or is it going to be something that we regret buying? So we tapped into a lot of like friends and family and YouTube to kind of like pare down our list of things that we ended up putting on our registries. As an example, we currently don't have a crib, and I know that sounds crazy because a crib is basically synonymous with babies. However, my brother has a crib that he wants us to have later on. However, as a newborn, the baby's going to sleep in a bassinet by our bedside. So we decided that we're going to hold off on getting the crib until later on. And that's just an example of how we're space saving right now for other things, such as a pack and play, which is foldable and is kind of like similar in its use. Another cool thing that I discovered while we were looking for products for the baby is this website called Goodbye Gear. We did a lot of research on strollers and this thing called a travel set, which is basically a car seat and a stroller set. And at the end of the day, we thought it would be more economical to buy a travel set that has both of those things in one package, and we know that it fits on the stroller frame. And so we had decided, a couple of months ago which travel set we wanted. And then, of course, when it came time to actually buy the travel set, it was sold out everywhere, and it was super stressful because we're due in a month and a half and we don't have a stroller or a car seat. And, it's the one thing that you need to bring to the hospital to bring the baby home. So I panicked and started looking at other options for strollers, which it's such an overwhelming market. There's so many options, and the price range of strollers goes from like under $100 to $2,000. And it's just really hard as a first time parent and as someone who's like never had to use a stroller to justify potentially buying a stroller that's $2,000. However, you also have that like internal monologue, like, what if you buy something that's like cheap and then it's not great for your baby, or it breaks or something happens, and then it's a stressful purchase. And I get how a lot of parents end up like buying these things because of peer pressure, or because they all they want is like best for their baby. But a lot of these things are are safety tested and are all useful and totally safe. But especially in New York City, I feel like there's this, I don't know what it is, but it's so insane. Like almost every single stroller on the streets is an Upper Baby, and we felt like it was so unnecessary. It drove us crazy to see that, like, 9 out of 10 strollers that walk by us would be an Upper Baby, and they start at like $900 just for the stroller, not the car seat, which you obviously need. And so that's just another expense that you have to purchase like the car seat separately, and it really bothered me for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, Goodbye Gear was a really good resource. We ended up going on this website to find our stroller and our car seat. They're basically brand new. They have this option where you can search for things that are open box but unused. And I thought that was a great opportunity to buy a product that I was super interested in, but because the box had literally been unpackaged, unopened or opened, the price of the stroller was cut by like 60%. So we ended up with a stroller that would have been like $1,500 for 500 or for $400, and a car seat that was originally $400 for 100. So we ended up spending exactly the amount of money that we were going to spend on our original travel set for two items that are like really nice and available, which was great. So now we have our stroller and car seat in the apartment, and I'm so relieved that that's the case. So a lot of people have asked me how I'm feeling these days. I would say that I feel pretty much the same as I have in the second trimester, except that I'm just getting bigger, and the my belly is definitely feeling a lot harder and heavier. So I definitely feel a lot more kicks and a lot more pressure. And it's not necessarily bad, but like there's definitely the presence of the baby, and it's feeling a lot more real than it did before. And every so often, Bam Bam definitely gets me really hard, and I lose my train of thought, and I'm like completely caught off guard. And it's it's both exciting and nerve-wracking because I guess sometimes it still doesn't feel like it's real that we're having a baby so soon. The other thing with the bump at this point is that I've definitely lost a lot of mobility and flexibility trying to reach my feet. And so I've been looking at shoe options so that I don't have to tie sneakers, which I've completely abandoned for months now. And it's totally fine because it's basically summer in New York. Another random update is that since the third trimester started, my hormonal acne is gone. So I'm super relieved about that. My skin has completely cleared up since, yeah, probably roughly around 27, 28 weeks. And it's totally normalized to like pre-pregnancy skin, which is awesome. I didn't want to stress too much about that because you can't really do much about it anyway, but relieved that it's gone. And I think lastly, everyone always asks if we have come up with a name for our baby girl. And as of right now, June 20th, we have not. We probably have another 3 to 6 weeks before she is born, and we have a list going, but we haven't really visited it recently, and it's definitely tougher than I thought it would be. I really thought that Alex would just like not care and I would just pick the name that I loved and it would be great. But it turns out he has more opinions than I thought about the name situation. So I think I'm gonna have to develop some sort of game or flashcard system or something to really pare down the list and have some options for when we go to the hospital, or maybe we'll end up deciding on something before then. Some people have suggested the Name app, It's kind of like a Tinder for baby naming. So you basically both download the app and you swipe left and right on names, and if you match, then it tells you that you match on names. So it's an option to like kind of get some options on your list. I don't know if anyone's used it before or how you feel about it. There's mixed reviews online and we might check it out. Not sure, it sounds a little lame, but or it might be really exciting and fun, so we'll see. And last but not least, I'll end with a bump date. As I said, I'm 34 weeks, almost 35 weeks today. And that means I'll have another appointment in about a week and a half where I get my next sonogram. I haven't had one since my 20-week appointment, so it's been a really long time and I'm really excited. Alex actually gets to come with me as well. My OB office has allowed for a support person to come to appointments now, so he'll be able to look at the sonogram live, unlike in the past where I've basically had to video the sonogram and then show it to him later. So this will be really exciting. So on to the bump date. So that's all for now. I will come back and update you guys after my next appointment, and pretty soon Bam Bam will be Earthside. I hate that phrase. I think it's weird because we're all on Earth, so she's already Earthside technically, but very excited for her to show up and get to meet all of you guys. See you soon. Bye.